When you got done driving, what did you go do?
Hid.
Why? The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. So Jack Sprague is, man, I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to talk to this about him. This guy dominated the super late model scene at Concord Speedway in a series. He did the local racing there, but also what they had was the Big 10 series where they would run 10 races throughout the year, and they paid a lot of extra money, and it drew in a lot of people from around the country to come try to win this money. And, man, he dominated so much so that he had stereotyped himself as a Concord super late model winner. They nicknamed him One Track Jack. I'm serious. And he goes into the Xfinity series and kind of couldn't get any traction. And they said, yeah, it's only because he can race at Concord. It's only because he got that car that wins at Concord, and that's all he can do. Well, he finally dispelled that rumor as he gets into the Truck Series and has an incredible career. And now he's in the conversations around being nominated for the Hall of Fame. I grew up racing at Concord. I went there in the 90s, early 90s, right when Jack was finishing up his sort of time as one of the dominant drivers at that racetrack. So I've got this real fascination for that part of his career. Want to learn about him, what he's been up to, and maybe we'll learn something really cool and new. So let's get started. Bring Jack Sprague into the studio on the Dale Jr. Download.
How are you? Good.
This is you right here.
That's me right there.
Yes, sir.
Dredge up old memories.
Yeah, for what we have left.
What we have left.
Yeah.
I don't remember it all either.
I know. I've been looking forward to you coming here, and the reason why, obviously, you've had a hell of a career, and want to talk to you about, being discussed and tossed around in the conversation for Hall of Fame. I wanted to save that to the end. Everybody looks at kind of the environment they grew up in and spent time in the racing bubble differently. But the way I looked at it was you came from that Big 10 or super late model sort of bubble that was out there at Concord Speedway. I want to learn more, but that's what I remember. That's where I remember you that's kind of where you rooted out of the ground in terms of your success, notoriety, and how you got traction to get to where you got to go in the Cup Series or the Truck Series at least. And I grew up around that. Right, I raced a little street stock car there, and
yeah, you did.
It was going, and I was going to that track as a little kid before I knew what was going on. Now that now that things have changed over the years, people come from everywhere. People come from all over the country to be a part of our sport, and they did back then too, to an extent. But a lot of people came out of that same little pipeline, that you did. So I want to talk a lot about the Concord experience. But first off, you're not from North Carolina.
I'm not.
Where are you from?
Grand Haven, Michigan, Spring Lake, Michigan area, just north of Grand Rapids.
What was your childhood like up there?
It was good. I mean, my dad always has something to do with cars, car lots, body shops, and I would work there. And my uncle owned a junkyard. That's where my first race car came from.
A lot of people that got into racing were connected to junkyards one way or another.
Yes, and
that's
I was
common sort of piece to a lot of stories.
Yeah. Basically, my first deal was a demolition derby.
Yeah.
Got it out of the junkyard, destroyed the car. The motor still ran, so I went and got another car, a 74 Malibu, big car. Put that motor in it and started street stock racing at Thunderbird and Winston. Yeah.
So is your family race?
No, my stepdad was just really into it.
He was a fan?
He was a fan, and my uncle that owned the junkyard, his brother, his kids raced on dirt at those two racetracks, so it seemed like the thing
So this
to
was
do.
dirt?
Yes, it was dirt.
Yeah. What was your performance like? When did you start having success?
I think I started at the end of '81, pretty sure, and like 4 races to go. Didn't win anything. Set the track record that stood for 5 years. Don't even know how I did that.
Damn.
And then the following year, raced those 2 racetracks also, and finished second in the points at Thunderbird and won the championship at Winston and won a bunch of races. I don't remember how many.
Yeah, your street stock car.
Yeah, street stock car.
All right, you ran the street stock car for a year or 2.
I think 2.
Yeah, then
I know
what'd you do?
1. Then I went to got a car, went to Asphalt, Berlin, Kalamazoo. My stepdad was pushing me to get to the asphalt, and I didn't win a lot of races.
Did you have a good relationship with your stepdad?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. He got me here. I mean, he started this whole snowball effect.
Yeah, y'all got along well.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's like, even if he was my dad, we wouldn't have got along no different. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So
Yeah,
between him and my mom, yeah, they pushed the button pretty hard.
yeah. So you get into the asphalt stuff. Do you remember where you got the car? Or?
Well, we bought a used one first, and it ended up being not too good. And then the second one we got for the asphalt, I think in the same year, we got a chassis from Johnny Benson's dad and put all the stuff off the car that wasn't so good onto that car. And it was okay. I mean, it wasn't nothing spectacular. Then the following year, my stepdad, deal with him was, I'll buy the car, you buy the motor. So we bought a brand new Port City car.
Damn.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice.
So you had to buy the motor?
I had to buy the motor.
What were you doing for work?
Body shop. So it was one of them deals, the more you did, the more you made.
Yeah.
So I'd work.
You worked on commission.
Yeah, I'd work my butt off and get enough to buy it. And
Damn.
then it blew up 5 weeks in a row. About put me out of business.
Yeah.
The car was fine. But, yeah, did that. I think I was on the asphalt up there for 2 years and moved here.
How do you move here? I know I guess your stepfather and mother visited.
They visited.
What were they? What?
I don't know. I didn't know what the hell they were doing, but they came down here in the summer of '86 on vacation. And
To what part?
around here, High Point here,
Damn, nobody comes here for vacation.
they weren't coming for vacation.
I got
That's
you.
what they told us. They were looking for me a place to go. So somehow they ran into Dickie Linville and Kernersville. I have no clue how. I think they said a laundromat or something.
Yeah, and he's a racer.
Yep, Dickie Linville, John Paul.
Yep.
And they got to talking, and long story short, they said if he can get a job and come get down here, he's welcome to work out of my shop with his car. He had a big shop, Dickie did. So we went everywhere. I went to Sam Mars, went to Richard Petty's, we went to Dennis.
What do you mean?
Looking for a job.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so then in the fall of '86, they bring me back with my then girlfriend.
Yep.
We went all over trying to find a job. I couldn't find a job. They just wouldn't hire anybody that wasn't from here.
So you walk into where?
Sam Ard's.
Sam Ard's place. Where was Sam's place at?
He was out in the country, and it was small.
Yeah.
It was like take what your dad used to have.
He's an
that
intimidating
building.
dude too.
Yeah, he don't say a whole lot.
No.
So what your dad's shop used to be there, the little shop, it was like half that.
Yes.
Like, man, how these guys do it. And
Right.
you watch them on TV, and they're winning races.
Yeah.
Went to Richard Petty's, Dennis Frings.
You walk in there and you
scared to death.
Yeah.
Asking for a job.
Did they say, like, what can you do?
Yeah, I mean, I worked at Port City, so I could fabricate. And
Oh, you did? You
Yeah.
had been working at Port City?
Yep, in Michigan for a year or two. So then ended up at Jay Hedgecock's.
Yes.
And he's the only one that, sure, I'll give you a job.
Yeah.
So we found a house to rent, went back home, and actually landed here on February the 14th in '87. And it was not a nice part of town in High Point. So I knew I was going to race at Concord, so I was trying to stay as close as I could. That wasn't close, but it was close enough.
Yeah.
Rented a house for $350 a month. I was bringing home $198 a week.
Damn.
It was tough. We'd literally go to the grocery store with a calculator.
Yeah.
Literally.
Who's with you?
My girlfriend ended up being my first wife.
Yep.
Rhonda. Her and I and our dog
Yep.
moved here. And luckily, so Concord, the Big Ten races, they start in March. March, April, it's once a month. Well, they run 2 Big Tens before the weekly racing starts. So I went to the first Big Ten. out of Dickey's shop.
Whose car? You still got your Port City car?
I came here with my Port City car with an open trailer, pulling it with a 6-cylinder Ford truck.
Yep.
It was rough. Didn't know it was rough, but it was rough. And actually, I had to borrow $2,500 from my grandmother and my $2,500 from my uncle to even get here.
Yeah.
And went to the first Big Ten race. I don't know what they all pay between $5,000 and $10,000, but it paid $1,000 for 10th. I finished 10th. So I spent $800 on tires and $200 on pit passes. It was just her and I.
Yeah.
No help.
Passes were expensive.
Yeah, but tires weren't, luckily.
Yeah.
So made my grand back. I'm like, all right, I can go again.
Yeah.
Same thing next time. Finished 9th. Whew, go again. But the second Big Ten race, Kevin Hamlin was there, and I'm not sure why. He worked for Butch Miller way back in the day, and so I knew him. And he walks up with this guy and his wife, and it was Hamke. So we start talking, and Kevin's like, "You need to hire him." He said he builds the kind of cars you want to build. At Hedgecock's, it was all late model stock stuff, steel interior, steel body, weld everything in. I hated it. I hated it. Bobby Labonte worked there. Gene DeHart.
Really?
Yeah,
that's so
way
cool.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Bobby was racing Caraway.
Yep.
But I just hated them cars.
Yeah.
I liked the super late model, aluminum interior, fiberglass bodies. I mean, and that's what Robert was going to do. He came here from Miami. He was a Howe dealer, and he built super late model cars.
Yeah.
Long story short, he hired me. 2 days later, he comes to High Point with his enclosed race trailer, loads us up. Off to Kannapolis we go, and we rent a house for $265 a month. It was just redone, no air conditioning. That's tough down here.
Yeah.
He helped me. He set it up, and through time explained to me and taught me how to set them up, taught me how to race, taught me everything. And we went to the first weekly race, and we won it. And Ernie Irvin ran there, and we beat him.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yep.
Stuff can drive okay. So we just got better and better and won the championship that year and the Big Ten championship in '87.
Hey, everybody, you want the latest Dale Jr. download apparel? Visit shop.dirtymomedia.com. We're always adding new stuff all the time, especially like when we say something silly on this show. We'll put it on a t-shirt. Again, check it out at shop.dirtymomedia.com. What was working at Hamke's like? Robert Hamke is a very famed, today, this guy's legacy is massive.
Yep.
Specifically here because he was located so close to Concord. But he's been built, the Hamke cars have been around forever.
Mm-hmm. Since that day.
Yeah.
In 88.
Right. So, what was that like knowing all the history now when you go back and you think about how you were there for the start? Mm-hmm. What was it like back then?
We were good for each other. We just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Because he helped me win, which sold race cars.
Yep.
So, man, we just started building more and more cars, and it got to be to the point where between fixing wrecks from people and still people that were his customers in Florida and Miami would bring their cars up here to get them fixed if they wrecked. So they'd wreck Saturday night, Monday morning, you pull in there, there'd be 2 trailers with wrecked cars in them.
Expecting that.
Yeah, and there was 3 of us working there, myself, his son Robbie, and Mark Keterman. So we're trying to build cars, we're trying to fix cars, and the list is getting longer. But there was no time to think about anything. You just had to do it.
Let's talk about Concord. The Furr family and Mr. Furr that owned or managed the racetrack was the same one that managed Metrolina, and so he had a lot of equity and trust and history built up in what he was doing. And I remember I'm sure you ran into my grandfather Robert G over there a few times because he would sit in the suite every Saturday night with Henry Furr, and they'd watch the races together and shoot and drink. But I paint the scene for us because what I think a lot of people maybe that are listening don't understand is how prolific I think the Concord super late model and Big Ten scene was, and how closely NASCAR industry people were paying attention to the people that ran in those races. So certainly people were looking outside of that little bubble in North Carolina for talent. Jeff Bodine comes down from up north, and I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get into this sport. But I just remember, and maybe it was just because I was there a lot, but I just remember like when I was around like Dad's team or Tony's Jr., Tony Sr., and those guys on the Xfinity team in that Xfinity garage, everybody knew who was racing at Concord. Everybody knew who was winning over there. Everybody knew who was running the Big Ten races and winning the Big Ten races. Did you realize, I guess, at the time that?
No, not at the time, but as time went on, and I realized that there was a lot of eyes on Concord Motor Speedway.
Sure was.
I mean, again, it was a track second to none. It was right here in the middle of everything. Everybody was watching it, but I didn't know it. Nobody knew it. You're just trying to survive and race and make it to the next week.
Yeah.
So, but as it turned out, absolutely, there was a lot of eyes on it.
How did you get yourself those opportunities to run with CC and those guys, the white 34? So I was working. This was right after this point in time, but I'm over at Allison Brothers working on their Legends car stuff when I was 16, and they had one of the CC cars sitting out back that had your name on the roof, and
that's where it needed to be.
but like, how are you creating those opportunities for yourself off of the success you're having at Concord?
So in '87, I drove my car. At the end of '87, I sold that car to Willie Henson for $20,000 without the motor, and I thought I was a millionaire.
Yeah.
Because Robert wanted me to drive his house car in '88. So we did that. I wasn't comfortable with that for the simple reason the car he had, a lot of guys have success in them. For me, it wasn't what I liked.
What did you like?
Well, I wasn't sure, but I knew that I liked my old car better.
What was it? Was the specific things about the suspension or something?
So his car, he was a Howe dealer. His car was a Howe car. Now, it may just have been we didn't know what the heck to do to it to make me happy. So I decided I'm going to have my own car again. So I bought a brand new car. And Jimmy
You bought a car from where?
Michigan.
Yep.
So
You're working there?
I'm working at Hamke's.
And bought a car from another?
It got touchy.
Yeah.
So
how did it get touchy?
First, I called Port City. I called Harley and said, "Hey, will you sell me a car?"
You knew you were messing around. You knew you were.
I wanted to win.
But you knew this could blow up in your face.
It did for a little bit.
Yeah.
So he says, "I need to think about that," because I didn't really leave there on great terms, Port City.
Damn.
But
what happened?
I wasn't there very long, maybe a year. Nothing really happened. It just I wasn't very comfortable there. Seems like it was something really stupid. So I wanted to put my car on the jig at the end of the year up there and see if it was all right.
See if it was straight.
And I told myself, if he tells me no, I'm walking out of here.
You just hard hit.
So I asked him. He said no, so I walked out.
I got you.
But I moved shortly thereafter, and there wasn't really bad blood between us, I don't think, but it wasn't warm and fuzzy either.
Sure. So
he called me the next day, called me back at Roberts, and said, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. You're working for Hamke down there, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay.
Do you think he was worried you might take the car and put it on Hamke's jig? Or?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure he was.
There you go. All right. I imagine you're sitting there at some point and you're like, all right, I'm winning all this, this stuff here at Concord, and I got this. And you're watching guys that maybe you raced with race on Saturday in the Xfinity cars and stuff, back in the Bush days or whatever. And when are you starting to try to figure out how to create your own opportunities there?
Well, I think that first Sportsman race at Charlotte helped.
So the Sportsman Series kicked off at Charlotte.
Yep.
When you heard about that, what did you think?
Well, Robert and I both liked it. Of course, I couldn't afford to do it, so he did it.
He bought the car?
I think, him and Donnie Ellison, Bobby Ellison, they're all buddies. I think it was an old Donnie Ellison Bush car. Yeah. I think it was. Mm-hmm. And had Prototype build a brand new motor for it. And Robert's friend, Tommy Model, he bought the motor. He was involved with Robert through this race and all this time here and there. And went out there and ran that race. And I think that's what probably...
That did more for you than...
I think it added to
anything? Yeah, added to it.
Because it was a big track. It was a big car. And we won the thing. And they tear me down, and Jerry Cook, he's CCing the heads. And says they're 2 cc's too small. I mean, we paid Prototype to build a brand new motor per spec for that race.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to lift on it. And I had a Big Ten race that night, so I had to go from Charlotte to there. And I'm sitting there, and finally he throws us out. I grabbed the trophy. I haul ass.
You hauled ass.
I still got it. Hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
I won that race. I don't care what they say.
Yeah.
So went to Concord that night and was fortunate enough to win the Big Ten race that night. But that stung a little. I mean, 2 cc's. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it, but I don't get it.
Yeah. When do you feel like you've kind of finally moved on from late model racing? How long did you keep the late model?
I kept it. I kept a late model until I got the truck deal.
Really?
Yeah. And the whole truck thing, that was a total fluke. How that started. So
the Truck Series starts their inaugural season in '95.
Mhm.
One thing I remember of that first half of the '90s, everybody knew that you kicked everybody's ass anytime you wanted to at Concord Motor Speedway. You would get these opportunities sporadically to race in the Xfinity Series, and nothing was working.
nothing was working.
How frustrated were you at that point? Or, I mean, are you frustrated at all?
Oh, yeah, extremely. I'd almost resolved to the fact that I'm just going to run my late model. I'm having a good time. I'm never, I could win enough to make money.
Yeah.
And
were you going to keep building chassis and working with Robert at Hamke's?
I worked with Robert until I got the 35 truck and actually got it there. So
I mean, had you not ever made it to the Truck Series in the '95 season,
I may have still been racing. I may have still been building late models and racing them.
Right.
I mean, that
the rest
was
of your life. Yeah.
You're so busy.
There's
back
nothing
then.
wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I guess this is a good question for you. My favorite time in my life around racing was my experience racing late models in the '90s.
Yep, it was a great time.
I had good times in the Xfinity Series. I had good times in the Cup Series, but the pressure and the grind and
yep.
everybody there's also under that same pressure and grind. Man,
everybody's got a microscope on you. Yeah, I know. It's
at the late model ranks, man. Everybody is there because they want to be.
Plus, you own your own stuff. They ain't got nobody to yell at you.
Yeah, the Truck Series starts up. I think we all were kind of paying attention to the Truck Series. It started up with a very few amount of trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, I think I was kind of sitting there wondering really how viable that would be, if it would really get off the ground and get going, which it did.
Mm-hmm.
Became fantastic.
But who knew?
Did you get a truck ride the very first initial year?
So, Robert was also friends with Bruce Griffin, Pee Wee Griffin, out of Florida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How?
Yeah. So we're up there. He's got his truck at our shop, and I'm putting crush panels in it and everything to go to the first race at Phoenix, and they'd run the winter heat with Gary Blue. So Gary Blue was supposed to drive this truck. Well, Pee Wee walks in there one day because when he'd bring the truck, he'd just go to a hotel for a week or whatever. And he walks in there, and him and Robert have been talking. And he says, "Hey," he said, you want to drive this truck?" I said, "What do you mean?" I thought Blue was driving it. Well, he got in a little trouble.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. So this is Blue's second stint.
Yeah. Yeah. So why not? We'll do it.
So have you read Blue's book?
I have not.
You got to read that book. It's so crazy. Were you aware that like Pee Wee and those guys and all them had been doing some nefarious things? Or
I heard a lot of stories.
Right.
I heard a lot of them from Pee Wee himself as I was driving for him.
Golly.
But
what talk to me about him? What kind of character was Pee Wee?
He was a pretty cool dude. I mean, he definitely had a different outlook on things than I did. But
that's not a concern of yours at this point in your life. You're thinking, hell yeah, I'll drive this truck.
Whatever, right?
Yeah.
So Bill Broderick was the handler.
Bill Broderick, the Victory Lane guy.
Yeah. Union 76 guy.
Union 76 guy from Victory Lane with a beard.
Yep. He was the one that dealt between us and Pee Wee as far as getting the money.
What the hell?
Yeah.
What a character.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So it was myself, my brother Jason, Tommy Voiles, and Joe Fagan. There's 4 of us. We don't fly nowhere, dude. First started in 95. We go to the West Coast for 5 weeks. I just had a baby in October.
Yeah.
I was gone 5 weeks. We all were. And King of the Road all the way, 48-foot Featherlight trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, with a truck. And that season, that first season in the NASCAR Truck Series was literally all on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So how did all that go?
It went well. The first race was Phoenix. I think we ran 6th. And I was like, okay. And again, we're doing this. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We have no clue. We're running against Childress stuff, Hendrick stuff, Roush stuff. And we're doing it.
Yeah.
So we ended up that swing. I don't remember where we finished and all that, but by the time we got toward the end of the season, the money quit coming, and the $20,000 I sold my late model for, I've used paying these guys and buying tires. I'm broke. Money's not coming. Literally would use the paycheck from the previous race to buy tires for the next one. I'd heard wind that Rick was bringing the truck deal back in-house. So at this point...
Where was Rick's truck deal?
Billy Hess ran it.
Billy Hess ran it?
He had Billy run the truck deal. Scott Legacy drove a DuPont sponsor first year. Well, Dennis Conner was going to the racetrack with them, taking care of the motors for Rick. But he was going to be the crew chief on the new program, bringing it back. Mm-hmm. He started talking to me, and I really didn't know who he was, and we got to be buddies, and he's like, I'm trying to get you in this deal. I'm like, oh, there's no way, right?
Yeah.
No way. I mean,
but
we've come this far. We're 5th in points.
Yeah.
Against these guys. And we're not, we really don't have a lot to work with.
Yeah.
So as time goes on, I might need to back up a minute. So back in 89, I'm winning all them races at Concord. Jimmy Johnson calls me from Motorsports, not the driver, the guy that ran it.
Yep, from Hendrick Motorsports.
Yep. So we had built Rick a super late model the year before. Tony Furr had something to do with it. We had something to do with it. It was a clone Levi Garrett super late model.
He took out the Riverside to run in the ASA or against.
Yeah, and he'd use it to play.
Yep.
He'd use it to play at Concord. He'd rent the track.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Johnson calls me because I knew him because of the dealings with Robert and his car.
There used to be, I want to clear this up for the listeners, there used to be a Jimmy Johnson that ran motorsports at Hendrick Motorsports, an older fella.
Yep. Wasn't older then, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew him, and he called me one day and says, hey, he said, Rick's renting Concord Wednesday or whatever day it was. He said, but he's got a buddy that wants a car to drive and they want to play. Would you be willing to do that? And I'm thinking, I said, Jimmy, this is all I own in this world that's worth anything. I said, I'm leading the points. I have to race Saturday. He said, it'll be all right. He said, I promise you, if something happens, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there sweating. I'm like, how do you say no? But
no.
I almost said no.
Almost said no.
I said, okay. Tells me what time to be there. My brother and I take the car over there, Jason, and unload it beside them. Rick ain't there yet. Nobody's there yet. Rick shows up. Nice as could be, like always. This limousine pulls up. I'm like, what in the hell's going on here? Door opens. Here steps out Tom Cruise. And then here comes all legs Nicole Kidman.
Oh.
I'm like, holy this is big. So they go out there and play, and Rick I knew could drive. He's a pretty good driver. So could Tom.
Really?
Oh, yeah, really good. They weren't 3-4 tenths off what I'd run in.
Bull.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah, half second at the most. So they play all day, and finally, if you remember the super late models, you got a place to sit. Then you got this nice aluminum interior. There's nothing over there except X-Bar.
That's right.
There's nowhere to sit. There is nowhere to sit. Well, she decides she wants a ride. Nicole does. Puts helmet on. There's nothing over there. She sits in there on top of that X-Bar, digging her heels into my aluminum. My stuff was nice.
Oh, yeah.
And it was driving me nuts. I'm like, oh, Marty, she's scratching my up. She's got her heels dug into my aluminum interior. She's hanging on to the X-Bar and the top roll cage. He goes out there with her, and he's only 3 tenths slower, and he's running with by himself.
Oh,
I'm like,
no. Yeah, that's a crazy
if he
thing.
hits something, there's going to be parts everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So the day got over with. Jimmy walks up to me and says, what do I owe you? What do we owe you? I said, Jimmy, and I needed the money, but I said, Jimmy, you don't owe me nothing. He said, maybe someday you can help me out. Fair enough. So this is like 6-7 years later. This is going down. So I started calling Jimmy. once a week, and I'd have horrible anxiety for it because I don't like bugging people. I don't like asking for stuff at all.
Yeah.
Yet I'd get up the nerve. I knew what day I was going to do it every week, and I'd get up the nerve, and about 3 o'clock I'd call them. Man, we're still working on it. So it was between me and Dennis Setzer, actually.
To get the truck ride at Hendrick.
To get the truck ride at Hendricks.
Yeah.
And Dennis made it easier for me because he decided he was going to drive the Alliance Busch car.
The 59 Alliance car.
Yep. So finally one day I called. This went on 4 or 5 weeks. He said, can you be here in 30 minutes? I'll be here in 15 minutes. I'm in Kannapolis.
Yeah.
I haul butt. I get there. I walk in Jimmy's office, and he talks to me a little bit, and he says, hang on a second. He calls, puts it on speaker, and it's Rick. And he says, hey, Jack, how you doing? I said, I'm doing good. How are you? He said, you think you can drive my piece of trucks? I said, I think so. I'm pretty sure I can. All right, well, we're going to give you a shot. I'm like, thank you. But it wasn't like we're going to assign you a shot. This is going to go race to race a shot.
Oh, my gosh.
So there's 5 races left to this season.
Yeah.
It's a 20 race season.
Yeah.
Next one's Flemington. That's like racing around this microphone. There's no straightaways, and I ain't good at that.
Yeah.
But it's a race to race deal.
Yeah.
So it's like, you ain't signed. You got to give up the deal you're in to do this. And if this don't work, this don't going back to this. What choice did I have? Out of money. I mean, I could have made it. I could have made it. I could have done something. But how do I give up this opportunity? So we go to Flemington and test, and we're okay. We go back to race. I'll never forget. I go to Flemington and I crawl in this truck on the B post there, Hendrick Motorsports, and I'm just like, I have died and gone to heaven.
Yeah.
What is going on here? We go back to the race. Legacy qualifies third. I qualify fifth. I'm like, that ain't looking good.
Yeah.
But I think we finished fourth in the race. We beat them. So I'm like, okay, I got past the worst one. Next race, Richmond. We go there and test. Terry Labonte's in a Hendrick truck. So are we. We're in the 25 Bud truck. And we're the fastest truck there and testing. Dennis and I hit it off instantly. I love that guy. I mean, him and I were on the same page for 8 years. We go back for the race. We're the fastest truck in practice. Something happened to the left rear tire qualifying. Qualified like 15th. I was like, man, dang it. So we start the race. Throw the green flag. Our radios were giving us trouble bad, even during practice. Hope we'd fixed it. We didn't. I go into one. I come down. Butch Miller's under me. I don't know it. I take myself out back in the fence.
Damn it.
I'm like, I have just ruined my career.
Yeah,
it's over. And I had hives this whole week going into this, and I've never had them before or since.
Yeah.
So I come in, they beat it all the best they could. I run the race, the whole race, beat up, wasn't good. And the whole race, I'm just sitting there just wanting to cry. I knew I just ruined everything I worked for my whole life. And I come in, and Jimmy Johnson, he's standing there. And he's good with putting this mean look on his face. He says, what happened? I told him, I said, dude, I'm sorry. I know I just screwed my life up. He said, can you be at my office at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning? We're going to sign you. I'll be there tonight.
Yeah.
This was Thursday night, right?
Yeah.
I used to run Thursday nights. So I was there, and they did.
Damn.
I'll never forget it. It was $50,000 salary, guaranteed $100,000. Well, they had to explain that guarantee part to me. I didn't know how that worked.
Sure.
So it's against the winnings, you know what I mean? So by the end of that year, I think we won Phoenix in the spring. We won there 3 times in a row, spring, fall, spring. I think we won, it was 3 or 5 the first year and finished second in the points. And hell, I made $333,000. I thought I was loaded.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a dream.
Yep.
Yeah, we won 3 out of 5 or 6 championships, and then went bush racing.
Tell me how it might have felt to finally prove, not to yourself, but to the rest of the industry, what you were capable of. Having went through what you went through from 90 to 95, struggling to really get that opportunity that would stick, right? Driving CC's car and different things like that. Finally, you get in a truck and you go win races and championships. And I'll say it, there was a lot of people that thought you were just going to be good at Concord.
Yeah.
And you were able to go out there and finally prove to people that there was more to you than that.
To prove to myself was bigger than anything else. But I didn't want to do it if I wasn't going to be good at it. You know what I mean? And I knew exactly how to make that late model do what I needed it to do. I knew how it felt to drive it. And up until the point of, I got a glimmer of it with Birdie. I mean, he was good. That was his heyday. I got a glimmer of it. I wasn't there but 2 or 3 races, and then I was gone. So going into that truck deal, I was nervous.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, this stuff just, how can anybody drive this stuff? But even the 35 truck at times would drive pretty decent, even though we didn't really know what we were doing. We were leaning on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, but once I got in that Hendrick stuff, it wasn't, I could make it feel like that late model. I mean, couldn't do the things with it. You give me 3,500 pounds versus 28, but they can drive good too.
You go on this tear, you mentioned it, championships, wins. I guess, what are you most proud of in terms of your Truck Series career? Is it the 3 in a row at Phoenix?
That's a goodie. And I think it was just because Phoenix was a big Concord.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally was.
It literally was, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about that.
There's 2 races that I won that I never thought I would, and it was in the 60 truck, the Weiler truck. Had a great time with them guys. That was, Tony Furr was there. I mean, as we all know, the Speedway guru.
He is.
Well, he built me a guru truck, and we sit on a pole. One Daytona, never thought I would. I mean, so many things, as you know, have to line up, and it did, and it just happened to line up that day. Fast truck. I wore the right side of that steering box out. I've never drove anything so loose on a speedway in my life, but it was weird. It had no downforce, but it'd catch itself. It had side force.
Yeah.
I mean, I wore that thing out, and Martinsville, that is the hardest racetrack I've ever raced on in my life.
Really?
And I come from
short tracks,
but that is not a short.
No.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
paperclip.
Oh, it's so hard, and everything matters so much.
Yeah.
So I won those. We were able to win those 2 in the 60 truck with the Weilers. That was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I think the thing I'm most proud of, Dale, to be honest with you, is the people I've met, the teams I've had. They were awesome. I had great teams.
Yeah.
Starting at, once got to that level.
Yes.
Even my late model guys, I mean, that was all volunteer. But the teams that we had at Hendrick Motorsports, and even at the 16 truck, Express Motorsports with Huge, man, we could have won 7, 8 races that first year in that 16 truck and just kept breaking, leading at the end. It was heartbreaking. It was just, had them won. I mean, and then to meet the Weilers, who I met, Jeff Sneesen, who I'm married to now, Amy Schellenbach. So people don't really realize there's this many people that get to do this in the whole world.
Yeah.
Drivers or crew members. I mean, not many people get to do this.
No, not at all. What was it like to be teammates with little Ricky Hendrick? So he's racing in the Truck Series. Y'all would move up together into the Xfinity Series.
Yeah.
With those programs. Mm-hmm. He's a good driver.
Really good driver.
Yeah.
Better kid.
Yeah, he's a great kid.
He was a great kid.
Yeah.
It was, that's one of them deals. I had to quit getting emotional. One of them deals where, the boss comes up and says, hey, my son's going to be your teammate. It's like, this could go bad. I mean,
yeah,
really?
It'd be tough, yeah.
Rich kid, you're thinking, I really don't know him at this point that well. So I think 2020 or 2001, trucks together. And we had Net Zero. He had GMAC. And I thought, man, this is going to hold us back. I mean, it's going to drag us down. I couldn't have been more wrong. One, great driver. Him and Lance got along well. McGrew and Dennis and I mean, we leaned on them too. And we won the championship with their help.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I thought was going to happen. But regardless of the great driver part, he was a great kid.
Yeah,
he was beyond his years. He was kind, considerate.
He was.
And he would sit there in the bus a lot at night and color with my daughter, and she was like 4. It's like, who does that?
Right.
I wouldn't even do that now at my age, but he was just that kind.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot of Ricky. It really, yeah. So then the next year we went bush racing. And then obviously he got hurt and decided to be the owner and not the driver. But It was absolutely the time of my life.
Yeah, he was a good little driver, and it was going to be interesting, I think, to see how he developed in the new role. Because he was taking on some ownership of responsibilities, right?
Yep.
Of choosing drivers or managing certain aspects of Hendrick Motorsports, like the Xfinity stuff and so forth. And so, man, it'd have been really cool to see what he would have been able to develop into in the management side of things.
He'd have been good at it.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he was kind and easy to talk to. Everybody did like him, like his dad.
Yep.
You end up getting to the Xfinity Series eventually. You tried to get there before the truck deal took off. You go and take off in this truck deal. I do want to talk to you about your rivalry with Hornaday. I felt like it was a very a healthy one.
For the most part.
A lot of respect.
Yeah, 99% of the time it was. Yeah.
I mean, when you run as good as you two guys did for so many years, there's going to be some moments where you bang into each other. It just happens.
Yeah, me and him and Skinner. And
yeah. So talk about that. Was it your toughest rival?
Both, yeah. Yeah, then there was times where Ruttman was right in there in the mix of things too.
What kind of racer was he?
Ruttman?
Yeah.
Good.
Really?
Hard nosed.
What kind of so I'll say it. I have this weird opinion of Ruttman because I don't know him. Okay, I don't. But I've told this story before. But I was a little kid standing out on pit road during a rain delay in Pocono. It's probably 1992 or 3, and he was driving. I think he was driving the Dinnerbrill car, the 75 for Ray Mock. Yeah, I think so. And it was drying up. I was supposed to stand out by Dad's car, just to stand out there and watch it. And
you don't know what for, you're just watching it.
I'm a fucking kid. So he comes walking by. Dad's car's got damn donuts down both sides of it, right? Because sometimes that's the way he drove. Ruttman comes walking by. I'm standing there, and I've got to know in my mind, like, Ruttman knows I'm his son. And Ruttman goes, man, that guy's been running into everybody today. Said something really Ruttman-like, really kind of a sarcastic way. And, man, it was like, what was I going to say? He's Ruttman. He's wearing a racing. Yeah, I'm a little kid. I'm like, I'm not going to smart off to him.
You were a little shy back then, too.
Yeah. I was like, man, I can't believe he said that. But, and it always kind of skewed my opinion of him a little bit. But
he definitely has a different
He's a dry personality.
Yeah, very dry, but funnier than hell.
Really?
I mean, once you get to know him, but it's a little standoffish at first.
Right. I always did think that he was a hell of a driver. Obviously, he was a great driver. But he couldn't. I mean, I guess he did have some stability at times with Roush and so forth. But it was like, he came into the Cup stuff in 81 or 82 driving J.D. Stacy's car. Mm-hmm. Damn near won Richmond till they blowed the right front tire or right rear tire or something on the front straightaway. But he ran good. He just couldn't, land anything long term. But you enjoyed racing with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there was kind of before you and Hornaday become teammates at Harvick's.
Yeah.
You got a strange look on your face.
Yeah.
Did that not go well?
Not at all.
What was the deal?
Well, it's one of them deals where it's going to go one or two ways.
Good or bad, yeah.
It's going to be like the Dygaard thing years ago, or it's going to go good.
Yeah.
And it just didn't go good. I made a bad decision.
What decision did you make?
To go there, to do that.
Where should you have went? What could you have done different?
I had a couple other things, not near as good as the Harvick trucks, but the trucks were great.
Yeah.
That wasn't, Ernie and I got along great. We were fast. Ernie Cope.
He was your crew chief?
Yep. Just didn't go good. I never felt comfortable walking in there. You know what I mean? It's like you walk into a place and you just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I just never did.
Yeah.
And that wore on me, and things didn't go quite the way I thought they were supposed to go.
Yeah. How long were you there?
3/4 of a year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you leave or get let go?
No, I got let go.
Really?
That was very tough. And it was when '08, right? So the economy's crashing. Sponsors are drying up. There's nothing going on. I'm getting toward the end of my career. I'm 46 years old.
Dang.
At that time. So I had stuff that I could do, but I didn't feel like I could win with it.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't going to do it.
You race your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
You raced late models when you didn't have nothing but a bologna sandwich to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And you ground all these years to get to Truck Series success.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, like you could always go back to race, to not to drive a late model car, but in my mind, like when you got done driving,
Mm-hmm.
what did you go do?
Hid.
Why?
The biggest regret I have about my career is the way it ended. I wanted to go. Everybody wants to go out on their own terms.
You can't. You can't.
You can't go out on your own terms.
Not. Even
you did.
They weren't great. My last year
but they were
sucked.
your decisions.
Yeah, but I mean, I still, if I spend enough time thinking about that last year, I'm like, why did it run? Why did it go so badly? You know?
Yeah, I get it.
But
I just felt like after the success that
you didn't get a choice.
I didn't get a choice.
How it ended.
I wanted to be the one to end it.
It didn't have to end.
Well, it did, because at that point, like I said, all the sponsors were drying up.
I know, but you could, maybe everybody's not like the same, but was there no interest in your heart or in your head around like your roots?
As far as like late model racing or something of that nature?
Being involved in that in any way. Like you built chassis, you knew every part of all of that.
I was pretty bitter.
You're so bitter, yeah.
I was. I'm not no more.
Yeah.
But I was.
How did you get over that?
Age, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess getting to the point where you just know, only 3 or 4 years later, I'm 50, right? So I could tell at that point, at 50, my reflexes weren't what they were.
Yeah.
My vision's not what it was. Mm-hmm. My balance isn't what it was. I mean, it's just
It
progression.
just isn't. Yeah.
So at that point, I know, okay, I'm not going to, probably wouldn't be the smartest thing to do this now anyway, but it took a few years. I was hurt.
What should you have done instead?
As far as what?
Instead of being mad and hiding, what should you have done?
I don't know. I enjoyed that time also, other than it being bitter, but I enjoyed that time with the kids that I hadn't had a lot of time with before.
How old are your kids then?
Probably Paige was 12 and
How
my
many
stepdaughter was 5.
All right.
6-ish.
Yeah.
Paige is 30 and I'm going to be grandpa in a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I got to do games, things I wasn't able to do for the most part before.
Yeah.
So that was good, but it still was hitting me side of the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is hard to watch the sport. Just go ahead and go on.
Yeah. Well, it don't matter if you're there or not.
Mm-mm.
It's going to go on.
That first time they went to Daytona, in 18, after I'd retired. I mean, I knew they would, but
Yeah.
it's just so weird,
It's weird.
It carry on.
How dare you?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
I know.
It's a weird thing. I'm surprised though that you didn't find something to kind of fuel. So like I was scared to just quit cold turkey going to a racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was like, I don't know if I need to be sitting around not at a track,
Mm-hmm.
right? I gotta be at a racetrack, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't want to be there without a role or responsibility.
Right.
We run late model stock cars and have for years.
Yeah.
And
That gave you an avenue.
It did, but I felt like that avenue to run to own or operate or even assist some kid who's trying to figure it out was there for you.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Or maybe at that point in your life, you're just like not that interested in it anymore.
Oh, I missed the racetrack.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to a lot of late model races.
Yeah.
Only a couple truck races. I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line is I didn't feel like, I don't know. I was just embarrassed and hurt.
Yeah. Well, what part of the sport do you pay attention to today?
All of it.
Yeah.
All
Do
of
you
it.
do you watch grassroots, flow, late model stock, supers?
Yeah.
You like all
Dirt
that
cars,
stuff?
late models.
Yeah.
I like it all.
Yeah. We have the Cars Tour, and so we do through the Cars Tour. Of course, I pay attention to the Cars Tour like obsessively,
Yeah.
but it's kind of helped me also watch what Bubba Pollard and all those guys are doing down in the South, Florida and Georgia and Alabama, and Tony Jr. and Tony Sr. are now, entrenched in the, pro and super late model racing, and I kind of keep up with where they are and who they're helping, and the scene is alive and well.
It's big, isn't it?
It is huge.
You ain't pulling into an open trailer no more.
No, not really.
No.
Nobody.
Tractor trailers, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
See, if I had to race now like I had to race then, I would never make it because I couldn't have never afforded it.
Yeah.
What it costs now to late model race versus then,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Yeah.
So it was kind of perfect timing.
When's the last time you went to the racetrack?
Wilkesboro.
Really?
I was a grand marshal. I had to go.
Damn, there you go. Well, but when you didn't have to go, when was the last time?
Martinsville,
Yeah.
I think a year and a half ago.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because like Rudd and those guys, man, when they retired, man, they freaking disappeared. Like
Yeah, so
Rudd,
did I.
it's wild.
I don't know. It's also a feeling of if I'm not doing it, I don't want to be there.
No, yeah, I understand
if
that.
I'm not driving, I don't want to.
You need a reason to be there.
Yeah,
Could I explain it this way? When you're part of the team and you matter,
Mm-hmm.
when you matter, when you're needed,
Feels good.
feels good.
Yeah.
And then when you go, when you know that you're going to the racetrack just to be an observer,
Mm-hmm.
it's never going to be any fun.
Feels like you're in the way.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I went to the racetrack without a hauler to stand in or sit in.
Yeah,
or,
nowhere
I was
to
like,
go.
I didn't even think about it till I got there.
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of prepping for the first year I was doing the broadcast, so we went to Martinsville, and I walked in, and I was like, I don't got anywhere to stand. Like, I feel like a freaking idiot.
I know peeps.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And so I did learn that when I went over to a few people or haulers that I knew people at, they were welcoming, and it was fine
Yeah.
to go in there, but I couldn't kick my feet up, like we'd done for
Couldn't
years.
change the TV channel.
No, it's the strangest thing.
It is strange. It's a weird feeling.
I never wanted to go to a racetrack like that.
Gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I don't have nowhere to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 100%. You did getting into the Cup Series there. You helped Rick a couple times when he had some drivers that were injured. The Cup side of it, or never really getting that, great opportunity in Cup creep in your mind at all, or is that since you did have this pretty awesome truck career, won a lot of races, won championships. I can honestly say, like, not winning a Cup championship doesn't bother me. It's not something that I think about during the day, and I think it's because I did have success in the Xfinity Series, and I got to feel like
You had success in the Cup
winning
Series.
I did, but I mean, I know what winning a championship feels like because I got to experience it at that level. So, had I never gotten to experience winning a championship, maybe I would bug the out of me, right?
Right.
But I know it's on the Xfinity level, it felt the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Winning's winning.
Yeah. What when you look back on your Cup experience, do you have any good fond memories? Being behind the wheel of a Cup car?
Yeah, I mean, that was another deal. So Jimmy Johnson was trying to put together a deal, Family Channel, me at Hendrick Motorsports, 14.
Really? Family Channel.
Yeah, they were going to leave Roush, and it got close, and then it didn't. So, and at that point, I really didn't even want to go bush racing, Ricky did, so we had to. But I enjoyed it, and we were able to win Nashville, finish 5th in the points. I enjoyed it. I was nervous of going to the Busch Series, to be honest with you.
Why?
Because I'm a big fish in this pond.
Mhm.
And now I'm going back to where I had failure. And I was nervous about getting in a Busch car again. But it was Hendrick chassis. We put the bodies on it, Hendricks. It was all,
Badass.
Be ready motors, our motors. You better be ready when you tag them things. But didn't take no time at all. In the Busch cars, we could make them drive like the truck.
Yeah.
So then we ran that, and then we were flying home from somewhere, Busch race on Rick's plane, and he come back there and sit down beside me. He says, "Hey," he said, "Gene Haas, that been a sponsor of ours for years,
Yep.
all the CNC machines. He wants to start his own team. Here's what we're going to do." He says, "We're gonna supply the car, the chassis, and the motors, and I want you to drive it." And I'm thinking, this is the closest thing I've got so far to being in a Hendrick car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I should have learned something when Robert and I tried to run a Busch car when neither one of us knew what we were doing. So Dennis and I went to this cup deal. Hendrick chassis, Hendrick motors, but we put our own bodies on. So back in the day when they had templates, you could make the most beautiful looking car, fit the templates, and then you could make a car that looks like it fell out of the holler on the way there,
Yeah.
fit the templates, and they'd go by you like 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
All tweaked up and crazy. Our stuff was pretty. But I just remembered like the first 4, 5, 6 races, I'm like, there is no way that this thing cannot have any grip anywhere. We didn't know what we were doing. We had great fabricators, but they only did what they were told to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't know how to put them on.
Yeah.
And that was everything.
Yeah.
As you know, that was everything.
It was.
And so, again, they hired Tony Furr, and Dennis was supposed to remain the crew chief. That didn't last but 3 or 4 weeks, and he got shuffled. But so Tony put a body on one of our cars for Charlotte. And you're going to like this story. So we go to Charlotte and made 600. We qualify second, Sterling, on the pole. I drove that thing into one, and you feel like you got a garage door spring pulling your foot back. And I just told myself, I'm not lifting.
Yeah.
And I went into 3 and started to turn and started to lift, and it was turning, and he barely beat me. But anyway, I'm like, okay, this feels like I'm not going to wreck every time I turn it.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. They start the race. I go back a few spots. And I don't remember how far along in the race we were. We were a couple pit stops into it. And I was following you. And I don't know. We were in the top 10 toward the 8th, 9th, 10th. But I'm tickled to death. Had nothing like this yet.
Yeah.
And we're going on the back truck. And I don't know if you remember, you exploded a brake rotor. Went right through my radiator. I'm like, damn. So that was the end of my night there.
Yep.
We go to Dover. Top of the sheet in practice. I'm like, man, this is awesome. Go to qualify. Something went wrong. We ended up like 10th. And we were bummed about that.
Right.
We went about half the race through there and drove myself to 6th, following Kenseth. I'm like, man, this is awesome. Feeling good. Well, the previous several restarts after pit stops, I restarted on the bottom. Well, back then the top was taboo.
Yeah.
Remember, nobody wanted up there anywhere. Restarts, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's where you want to be. But I'm restarting on the outside. We lost some spots in the pits. I'm back 10th, 12th. I drove that thing into one out there and it stuck. I'm like, well, okay. Got a couple of them. Drove it into 3. A little harder. Didn't stick.
Yeah.
Backed in the fence.
Damn.
So then we go to Indy to test. We were top of the board in Indy testing. But something was going on. You can tell people are whispering and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff was going on. We're leaving the racetrack in the van, and they stop, and they get a seat out of John Andretti's hauler. I'm like, here we go. So get home, and that deal come to an end. John Andretti's in it, and then Bliss and Ward Burton. And
damn.
If you remember, that team never did anything until Stewart got involved.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he did, but he turned it into a struggling deal for a lot of years.
He turned it into a
championship deal.
He did. They had a rough run there after they got rid of you.
Well, it was rough with me, but I wish I could have stuck. I wish I would have, because I think we would have done something with it.
Yeah.
Because we were finally running good.
Yeah.
Once Tony got them bodies on there, but that was everything, and it just, and that didn't crush me near how my career ended did.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm cool. I'll go back to the trucks.
Yeah.
I love the trucks. I feel comfortable there. I don't feel like everybody's got a sight on me with a rifle. I mean, it's, as you know,
Oh, yeah.
you're only as good as the week before, right? So I would literally, this is how my whole career, except in late models, but you'd win a race and you could relax for a week.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're thinking, I got to win again, or I got to prove my worth.
Mm-hmm.
So you win a race and everything's great for a couple weeks, and then you get pressure cooker again. It's like, they're not by them, by me, myself.
Mm-hmm.
I got to win again. I got to make sure that I don't lose my job.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I felt through it all.
Yeah. That's a tough way to live.
It is a tough way to live.
Yeah. In 2025, you were considered and listed as a nominee for the Hall of Fame class. When did you learn about that?
Funny deal. I was sitting at lunch with Freddie Query and our other buddy Jeff Starnes and some other guys. We usually do lunch every Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. And my phone rings, and I look. It's Wayne Otten, and myself, Skinner, Hornaday, and Wayne Otten. We've been tight ever since.
Mm-hmm.
We were his boys. He's our guy. He's an awesome guy. I said, what the hell? Hope nothing's wrong. It's one of them deals. Everybody's getting older and more people, around you fading off. And I answered. He said, hey, I just wanted to let you know you're nominated for the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, really? He said, yep, you're next, buddy. See you later. Click. So that's how I heard. And so I pick up my phone and I go to Facebook, and there it is. So that's how I found out.
How did that calm any residual emotions you still had about how your career ended?
I didn't have much bitterness left at that point anyway, but because once you know you're too old to do it, it only bothers you when you know you can
Still
win.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something you go into your career. You don't even, in my case, I didn't go into a career. I was just racing to survive, and you're so busy you don't have time to think. That was really stupid moving halfway across the country with no money and one race car. I mean, today I think about going, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But you don't realize, you don't do it for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize this is a possible reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're just working to survive, and you're working to win, and you're working to do what you can do. And I guess now to sit back and look at it, it obviously is a hell of an honor. I mean, it's a big deal.
Did you tell Freddie and those guys?
Oh, yeah.
What'd they
were
say?
sitting right there with me.
What did he say?
He said, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I don't have any regrets about not being a Cup champion. It would have been great, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, only 30 people every week get to do this
Mm-hmm.
in the whole United States of America, in them cars or
I
trucks.
have the same exact thing.
This many people.
I know. I've said that so many times to try to explain to people like how lucky I felt just to be able to get out there and do it.
Yep. I mean, it's
Not
being from here, nowadays, you got your Josh Berries that make it on merit, and you got a few of them to do, but most of these kids are coming out of simulators, and they're paying for the opportunity to do it, and some survive it and some don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't happen like it used to happen.
No.
You don't. I remember when Ernie Irvin got hurt driving Yates's car.
Mm-hmm.
I was only like 30, and I called him. I had to get the guts up, and I called him, asked him if I could drive his car. You know what he told me? I was still a little too young, didn't have enough experience yet.
Yeah, 30 years old.
Now, if you're 18, you're late in the Cup Series, right? I mean, you better be 18 or 19, but I was a little too young and didn't have enough experience yet.
Yep. It's changed.
It's flip-flop.
It'll flip the other way. One day they'll be looking for 30-year-olds.
I don't think so.
I believe it.
You think so?
Everything cycles.
I don't know. These kids are pretty good. Some of them.
Well, I know they are. Right now, it's the hot ticket.
Yeah.
Get them young.
Yeah, get them young and let them pay the way while they're wrecking stuff, and then if they make it, they're good.
Yeah. Well, man, I've enjoyed talking to you.
I've enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I feel like this cool connection to you, Freddie Query, the guys that I remember, when I was young, reading about in the Concord race programs, and hearing about the guys that are winning the Big Ten races. I mean, that was our world.
Well, you were down, and Kelly was down there racing,
but that was the world of racing. We didn't know anything else outside of that. And we drove around Concord and Kannapolis, and everybody had their car outside the garage the day, on a Friday, getting ready to go.
Yep. That's the way it was done.
It was awesome.
I gotta ask you one question. Yeah. You don't have to air it if you don't want to. But so, back in '89, myself and Robert's stepson Steve were over at Mark Reno's, and we had the sportsman car.
Yep.
It's like midnight, and we're out there outside with the lights shining down, doing the body work, painting. We had to be at the racetrack next day. This thing ain't painted. This black pickup truck pulls up. This guy gets out, and I don't pay much attention. I look over, and it's dark. He walks over, and he says, "What's this?" And I look, and there stood your dad. I'm like, "It's a sportsman car. Who's driving it?" Or no, he said, "Who the F is driving it?" No, he said, "Who's driving it?" I said, "Jack Sprague." He said, "Who the F is Jack Sprague?" I said, "Me." And I'm like, I'm shaking in my boots. He says, "Well, the only thing I can tell you is eat beans, wear jeans, and work all night. You'll make it." I'm like, thinking, check. It's midnight. So then that gave me the opportunity, because you remember when I used to come over about once a week at night after work on my car about 8, 9 o'clock at night? And that one night, I'll never forget, it said that brand new Hopkins car on wheels, rolling chassis, and you're sitting in the floorboard. You're like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
You're making racing noises. I'm looking at you going, kids ate up with that. and you're doing that for about 15 minutes, and your dad and Tony Sr. and them were all drinking moonshine on the picnic table there. Remember that picnic table?
Yeah.
And finally says, "Junior," he said, "you got school tomorrow. Get to the house." And I'm like, "Oh, poor kid."
Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Well, I mean, I remember those days. I don't remember that specific moment, but I remember you coming around. I remember you being around.
For crumbs. Anything.
Yeah.
He says, "Well, if you didn't drive who you drove for, I'd help you out, but I don't like that guy."
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't even remember who it was.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful that you gave us some time today to come over here and sit down and talk to us and talk about your career, learn more about you, and see what you've been up to here lately. So thanks a lot for spending some time with us today. Congratulations on being a nominee, and just
that's cool,
dude. It is. I mean, it's
cool.
It basically, I will say, like becoming a part of that conversation
makes you kind of feel like you mattered.
It's the final attaboy.
Yep,
it is. It's the last attaboy. Might be the last attaboy you get, right, out of your racing career. Yeah. And it's the only one that matters, in the end of the time, because that's your industry's, telling you your value. And I'm happy that you got that. You betcha, man. We hope you enjoy being on the show, and love to have you. Yeah, love to have you come back.
Cool.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Jack Sprague on the Dale Jr. Download. Great conversation with Jack Sprague. I don't know how you enjoyed the conversation, but I love to hear about the Concord local super late model experience that he had in the late 80s, early 90s, because I was just starting to go to Concord and race my street stock car with Kerry right around the time when Jack was kind of finishing up there. There was a handful of guys that they were huge. They were legendary in that little world, right? He talked about the big fish in the little pond. But to people like me that were little street stock racers, or just kids running around at Concord, they were a big deal, and they hauled ass around that racetrack, and their cars looked incredible. And it was just a cool era. And it was fun to talk to him about his sort of, his clunky sort of way to finally land in a very good position in the Truck Series and have some stability, a lot of success, become a champion. And then it got clunky again, between going to the Xfinity Series with Hendrick and then the Cup deal that didn't really work out, and then his career ending in the Truck Series. And I was a bit surprised that he was so frustrated, I suppose, is the only word I can think of right now, about how his career ended. And that I think about that because racing is a mistress or a relationship or a marriage, or racing is you love racing the same way that you love a significant other in your life. And man, a lot of times you don't, like he said, you don't get to choose how that relationship comes to an end. One thing's for sure, it's going to end. Whereas, you give your heart to racing just the same way you give your heart to your wife or your better half. And the thing about that is like my hope and the realistic possibility is that I'm married to Amy for the rest of my life, right? And Jack, has that same opportunity in his personal relationship, not in racing. And racing's going to leave you. And how it leaves you is not always up to you. And it's so tough. And I think that's what we see with a lot of drivers. If you've listened to this show and listened to a lot of our interviews with some of the guys that are retired, I'm always like stopping and pausing and sitting on the retirement or the ending of their career, or how did it end, and what did they do, and why didn't they do this? Why didn't he go race late models? Why didn't he get a late model and take someone else racing? Why didn't he help why didn't he get to the racetrack back in his roots where he had so much success? Like it seems so logical to me that he would just go race. All right, man, that was great. Cup, truck, all that fun stuff. I'm going to go back to the Snowball Derby. And I'm going to go back to that circle of people and find my purpose. But he said he hid because he was so heartbroken and embarrassed. And I got to tell you, I think it happens to more people than we know, more drivers than we know. This thing ends, and even if it makes perfect sense, it still hurts, and you've given everything to it. You've sacrificed. You've done without to have it, and it don't love you back. That was, I feel so lucky that wasn't necessarily how it ended for me. And I know it easily could have. At certain points in my career, it could have easily ended in a very hurtful way. Now, I mean, I could change a few things about the way my Cup career wound down. And hey, I'm still not 100% divorced from racing. I mean, I'm driving my little late model car, and there'll be a day when I've kind of cheated a little bit in terms of I still get to drive and I still get to know what it feels like. I haven't had to say goodbye just yet, and I worry about that and how that might feel versus what Jack's experienced. But yeah, that's a fascinating conversation that I like to have with a lot of these drivers. And when they end their careers, some of them walk away without a problem, no problem whatsoever, and they go on to something else, and it doesn't bother them. But for some, it's hard to be able to accept, I guess, that A, they're not going to race anymore, or B, they don't have the abilities The reaction and senses and all those things are just not there anymore, or that they're not wanted, right? No good team wants to put them behind the wheel of their car anymore. It's tough. But we finish with the idea that he's in the Hall of Fame conversation. Look, I don't know if he'll get in, when he'll get in, but being in that conversation has to mean so much to him. And maybe it means more than he realizes. I think that getting that compliment certainly is helpful to him today, but I believe 5-10 years from now he'll truly realize how much that means to him and how much that really truly matters to him. It takes a while for that to sink in. Just being a nominee is enough, because only a few get in, but being nominated, considered, is such a cool moment for a guy like Jack with the career that he's had. So thankful for him to give us some time today. It's a lot of fun. It's time for the white flag. Actions Detrimental and Door Bumper Clear are recorded on Monday. Door Bumper Clear had Connor Zilich on the show, and Denny is fresh off his race at COTA, where he broke down everything from his perspective behind the wheel. And yesterday we had our Dirty Air show recapping everything from COTA, the Cars Tour, Ask Junior, Dirty Mo Doe. And today Herman Schrader dropped their show along with a new episode of Speed Street. And then tomorrow, Thursday, Amy and I will have a new episode of Bless Your Heart. It's going to be a great week of Dirty Mo Media content. And you can celebrate all of this Dirty Mo Media content by wearing the new Dirty Mo Media merch line. We've got a new e-commerce merch line. You can go to shop.dirtymomedia.com and check out all this new great stuff we've created just for you. And we'll keep adding stuff throughout the year. We got the ability now to make a t-shirt however we want, whenever we want. So I promise we'll get creative with that and have some fun, if Mike will let us. All right, so everybody, thanks Jack for coming on, and looking forward to tomorrow with Amy and what we might have to talk about. But it's been a fun week. Hope everybody enjoys it. Looking forward to Phoenix this weekend. It's going to be another great race in the NASCAR schedule. We're off to a great start this year, and it's got me excited. So we'll see you.